Shaky Byrne on pole position. The start will be vital round here. John Kirkham with that bright green helmet on the second row. Josh Brooks gets away absolutely level. And Yuichi Kiyanari made a dashing move to the right-hand side as they drop downhill and slides through into fourth place behind his teammate on the Samsung Honda, Alex Lowe's. What a great shot that is of the whole load of riders teeming through that first series of turns. That is such a demanding sequence. Seat curve, Leslie's the Scotsman, and then through Butchers, and then up towards Arnold Clark chicane, and then into Clark's turn at the end of there. Remember, this is a track that these guys get round in like 48 to 49 seconds, flat out all the way. Josh Brooks leads it, Shaky Byrne in second place, Alex Lowe's just ahead of his teammate Yuichi Kiyanari. They revitalised Yuichi Kiyanari.
Yeah.
First lap of 30.
Yeah, and Kiyanari, you're dead right, did make a cracking start, swooped right across, and it's just what he needed, you know. And it's one of them circuits where if you don't make a start here, by the time you get through turn 1, 2 and 3, you can be easy a couple of seconds behind, and it's so difficult to make up when times are so close around here.
Josh Brooks, Taiko Suzuki leads the way. Shaky Byrne in second, ahead of Lowe's, Kiyanari, Kirkham, PJ Jacobson, who was sucked round by Josh Brooks during qualifying and really rolled well in the wake of his team leader to qualify so well. Behind Jacobson, we've got Chris Walker, always there, ever present on the Quattro Plant Kawasaki. Keith Farmer on the second of the Rapid Solicitors bikes, and James Westmoreland, ninth. Peter Hickman.
Hey up. Somebody can't stop. Somebody cannot stop. That was PJ Jacobson. He had a right old lunge and lucky not to take, I think, Chris Walker with him, I think. He certainly got somebody.
PJ Jacobson, then the New Yorker, drops a couple of places and has to regroup now behind Chris Walker, and just ahead of number 303, Keith Farmer. Next man over the brow of the hill was the current 125 GP lap record holder here, James Westmoreland. James Ellison down in 12th place with a lot of work to do. Dan Linfoot not making a great start on his comeback. He says he hasn't really, obviously, got any race sharpness back yet. That's what he's really desperately seeking.
Yeah, I've got to say that in every practice session, Linfoot was up in the top sort of 6 or 7. It's not that he's going steady. I think he's just short of a little bit of the sort of action that he needs to get back into the sort of cut and thrust, especially at this sort of circuit.
Just on the fringe of the points are two men who've never raced this track before. The Dane Robin Harms in 15th, Jakob Smerts from the Czech Republic in 16th, and both of them say the same thing. They're trying to get yourself to relax around this track. There's no time really to do that. And Jakob says the harder you try, though, the slower you get.
Yeah, it's a funny track in that if you don't know exactly where you're going, that is a fact. However, it's a track that you know you're going to have to come to and push and push and push. It's not one where you can relax and go quicker like kind of Donington sometimes or Thruxton. It's a track where if you push and you get everything right, then the times will come. You can't relax.
At the front then, not relaxing at all, is Josh Brooks with a 1/10 of a second at the moment in hand over his great rival Shaky Byrne. And then Alex Lowe's running there strongly in third place, has crept away from Yuichi Kiyanari after Kiyanari's blinding start. And behind Kiyanari, Kirkham, Walker, Farmer, Jacobson, Westmoreland, and James Ellison moves into 10th place ahead of Peter Hickman.
Yeah, big ask for James Ellison, you know, didn't qualify so well. And it's not like he hasn't qualified so well and he's the fastest man here. You know, he hasn't been going that well in practice, lots of issues. He says he can't get the bike to stop wheeling. They've had to totally change the way he rides the bike, and that's always difficult in a race weekend. Yeah, and I don't think he's got the speed to come through top 4 anyway.
We've lost number 14, Michael Howarth, the Todmorden rider on his own team's MH Kawasaki, has pulled up with a technical problem.
I don't know if it's with him or the bike, possibly him.
Well, do you know what? He's shed 1.5 stone in the past 6 weeks. He's looking very trim and fit, and, you know, you'll be quite disappointed with that. He was looking forward to the race.
He says a lot of that's thanks to the fact he stopped drinking beer, which is always a worry. He'll certainly be a worry for the publicans of Todmorden, I'll tell you.
Brooks leads it still. Second place for Shaky, then the two Samsung Hondas. Notice the new helmet, can I just point out? Josh Brooks, one of his racing heroes, the great American icon of the 1980s motocross and supercross world, David Bailey. That's a replica of a David Bailey JT racing helmet from the mid-80s, and he's really proud of it. It's got Bringelly's Best on the back as well, which is an indication of the suburb of Sydney where Josh Brooks comes from. So yeah, Brooks still leads it.
For how much longer? I don't know. This is into the hairpin. Really bumpy. The problem with these superbikes is you hit a bump, the bike almost leaves the floor, and you've got at that point to get the brakes on somehow. So you've got to get the bike settled and then get the brakes on. It's really difficult to get the thing stopped for this hairpin.
Looking back up from the Taylor's hairpin, if you're standing there and watching these guys go up that hill, they rocket up the hill from the hairpin to 170 miles per hour at the crest of the hill. It's like watching and listening to an aircraft taking off.
Yeah, but
sensational.
One thing you need to do is get a pillion lap on something like this, Jack, because you have absolutely no idea how fast these things accelerate. These things are 210, 215 brake horsepower, and they don't weigh anything. They weigh 180, 175 kilos. That is like putting 2,000 horsepower in your blooming, what is it, little Suzuki that you've got. That's what it's like. The closest thing you'll get is a rocket, honestly.
And we've got Lowe's and Chianari there fighting. Chianari now beginning to regroup with a 49.17 on the last lap. Although he has been slightly cast adrift. Kirkham, who always goes well round here, is in 5th place. And he's broken clear a bit of the Keith Farmer, Chris Walker, PJ Jacobson, PJ Paddy Jacobson trio. Westphal in 9th, Ellison 10th ahead of Hickman. Linfoot having a very, very strong ride for his comeback. He says that everything, he's comfortable on the bike, but everything aches when he gets off it. An awful lot of...
There is a lot of achingness if he is aching all over, because he's a big lad.
I think you know what it's like to have pelvic damage, James. There's an awful lot of parts of you that are being used for the first time after being rested.
Yeah, the fact is your pelvis, just about everything else joins on. It's like having a bent frame on a bike, you know, everything bolts onto your pelvis, so yeah, you can't really hide from a broken pelvis.
We've got Smirch Mainwaring Waters just outside the top 15. 9th lap out of 30 we're We're 8 laps complete already at just past quarter distance in this first race. Look at these guys, no one's hanging about. But I'll tell you what, Tommy Bridewell down in 13th place is a surprise. That man there on the black and bright yellow Batham's Honda, he was looking very, very focused before the race in the back of his garage.
It's a shock to me. I thought he'd run a lot stronger than this round at a place like Knockhill, I've got to say. He's just behind the two GB Moores Hondas of Hickman and Linfoot.
That is commendable for Dan Linfoot to be sitting in behind his teammate there and, you know, looking pretty... Ooh, Josh Brooks gets a weave on them.
See what I mean? And if you just miss the braking point just by 2 feet because of that bump and the bike isn't settled, you can easily go past the hairpin by, you know, 3 or 4 metres.
James, you've been impressed by the distinctive line that Shaky Byrne takes around that hairpin, and that was a perfect illustration of it there. The way he gets into it late but sits it up early. Yeah, and one of the problems with these things with, you know, these bikes with 215 horsepower, the fact that if it's on its side, you can't use any of that power. So what the tendency is to do now, especially in the short corners like the hairpins, Melbourne Loop at Donington, etc., and the hairpin here, is get the bike, get it turned, stay off the throttle around the mid-corner, get a little bit more turning done, sit it up, and then go hard on the throttle, instead of squeezing the throttle gradually from mid-corner. And here's going to be an illustration of it. Shaky just looking. Now watch the difference in lines as he and Josh Brooks go into the hairpin here. Yep, lock tighter, get it set up, and then a straighter exit. Actually, that wasn't his best example of it. Wasn't. Thanks, Shaky. I've got to talk about that start and finish area, Jack, because that is pretty much the most exhilarating point of any track that you'll go on, especially with these things with this power. The bike, it doesn't just wheelie, the thing almost floats the whole way over. There's no weight on either the front or the back wheel. It's just a lovely feeling. You've no worries about the thing taking a fit or tank slapping. It just floats, and it is beautiful. This is the battle for 5th place. John Kirkham on the build-based BMW, a former Superstock 1000 national champion, just ahead of the reigning Superstock national 1000 champion, that man. There's number 303, the Clocker Bullet, Keith Farmer. Keith Farmer is beginning to creep back in onto the 2 leaders. Yeah, better example that lap of Shane Byrne squaring the hairpin off somewhat. So Brooks, Byrne, Lowe's, Chianari. We've got England, we've got Australia leading England with Japan in 4th place here in this international flavour at the front. And just still on the fringe of the points, Robin Harms on the Dutson Motorsport Honda, still there in 15th place ahead of Jakob Smertz. You know, this is one of them circuits where you can be just 3 or 4 bike lengths behind the rider that you're trying to catch, and it's almost impossible to catch him. You can nick, you know, a 10th here, a 10th there, but it's just... The lap times are so close, rather like the old Mallory Park was.
you're tantalisingly close to them, but there's no way you can make big steps. You know, it's all nicking bits here and there.
About to complete the 12th lap of 30 here. There is Yuichi Kiyanari looking for that to try and tag on to Shaky Burns' record of race wins. Of course, Shaky now has crept ahead in the record books.
Well, let's be honest, that man there, number 23 on the Samsung Honda in 4th there, look, the blue bike, there he is. You've got to say this is already a massive improvement to what we've seen of him all season.
Huge. So Brooks, Byrne, Lowe's, Kiyanari lead the way here in the beautiful Scottish sunshine. Lowe's fastest lap of the race so far, 48.94. That lap record, remember, Shaky Burns from 2006 on a Richler Suzuki of 48.474. But of course the motorcycles were rather more sophisticated then, in a sense, James, in terms of electronics.
Yeah, and just as much power, isn't it? Because the engines are more super stock spec, a lot more standard parts using the engines these days because of the change in regulation. They had just as much power then, and they were a lot more sophisticated electronically.
Kirkham, Farmer and Walker jet across the line, still absolutely in line abreast in their battle for 5th place. And then Westmoreland, Ellison, Jacobsen, Linfoot, Hickman, Bridewell, they're all ganged together as well, ahead of Rutter, Harms and Smertz. Howie Mainwaring having a good ride as well in 17th place. Matteo Boiocco is up into 18th place ahead of the Australian champion Josh Waters on the 2nd Milwaukee Yamaha. So Matteo Boiocco, who's keen to, he would really like to just dip into the points on the Moto Rapido Ducati.
I've got to say, you know, Josh Brooks is doing a good job of this, because you look at the times, the best lap, his best lap, 48.9, so he's dipped under the 49s, and he's constantly lapping 49.1, 49.2, 49 flat. And the fastest lap in race 1 last year, in not similar conditions but dry conditions, was 49.25. So these are good lap times.
John, the amount of it's how much you'll put on the front end of that bike as you launch over the top of that crest into the first right-hander. That bit of heart in mouth time to the onlookers there, James.
Absolutely, and that part of the track, you know, that turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, where the bike's never straight up, and one corner leads into another, and your line out of one dictates your line into the next, is a really tricky piece, and a lot of it's off camber. It's so easy to crash there. I know that from fairly bitter experience.
We're watching now as Shaky Burn. Oh, and there's a crash for Alex Lowe's. He went off at the hairpin on Friday, and he said that was the first time he'd crashed for ages, and he'll be furious with himself for that.
Typical, that is typical hairpin crash. Middle of the corner, a little bit too much throttle. The back kicks out, watch. That's typical, trying to get the throttle up just that little bit too early with just that little bit too much lean angle on. So easy to do. I mean, I feel a bit sorry for Alex there. You don't have to do a lot wrong for that to happen.
Now, this gang getting into action here. It's Father's Day here in the United Kingdom, and in action on the hairpin today, Keith Harbertson, who's 58 today, celebrating 40 years of marshalling since the age of 18 here on Father's Day at Knockhill.
And while we're on with it, I was speaking to a couple of numpties who's ridden all the way up from blooming Cornwall, would you believe, on bikes, raining a lot of the way up. And they were called Chris and I'm thinking Tom, but if I've got your names wrong, sorry. There can't be more than 2 people who've been daft enough to ride up from Cornwall, I would have thought.
So Josh Brooks and Shaky Burn now broken clear on their own in their battle for honours, and with Keogh with the prospect of a podium finish.
Yeah, but I feel a bit sorry for Keogh there, obviously held up by his teammate going down the road. You don't know where to go, and at a hairpin you don't actually know where the bike's going to go. It can land on its wheels and take a fit and go. You know, obviously didn't want to get knocked off with it, so poor old Keogh there lost about 2 seconds.
Incidentally, Keith Harbertson's son Anthony is working with him at the hairpin, and Keith's dad Jim, 84 years old, has just retired from 36 years of marshalling this year. I tell you what, these marshals, dedicated people, and it runs in the family rather like racing.
It does, and I tell you what, it's not so bad with the days like this and you sat out there and you get a quiet meeting when there's no crashes. But I tell you what, they stood out there in all weathers getting blooming hypothermia and chill blades and all sorts of stuff, and I take my hat off to them.
We really like that line that Josh Brooks takes up the hill. Charlie was talking about it yesterday, the way he slews to the right out of the hairpin and then brings it right across back towards the pit lane as he comes across the crest of the hill. Goosebump time.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people say there's lots of reasons for that, and I don't buy into any of them. The reason is you're coming out of the hairpin, you're hard on the throttle, the bike doesn't want to turn, so it's easiest, instead of sitting it straight up, it's easiest to let it gently keep going the way it's going until the bike's not accelerating as fast, and then you can straighten it out. That's all.
That was a nice, very plausible explanation, James. Like that.
Well,
these two
Josh
guys
Brooks
are working hard, aren't they?
I thought Josh was going to run wide there because he hit that bump fairly hard. Yeah, they're working hard. It's hard work around here, physically hard, but I mean, I'll tell you, both these lads are fit enough to keep going indefinitely around here, so don't worry about fitness.
So, Josh Brooks versus Shaky Byrne. Josh Brooks, of course, from the edge of Sydney there. He's been an Australian Supersport champion. That was way back in 2001. And won that Australian World Supersport round in 2004 at Phillip Island. That's when we really noticed him on the international stage. And a year later, he was winning both Superbike and Supersport championships in Australia. So he's done it all down under. Yeah,
and I think that's Jenny Timmuth with C. Hoven interview. Should be the first rider to get lapped, I think.
And bad luck for number 64, first time out with his new sponsor. That's Aaron Zanotti. On the Stel Suzuki has had to pull into the pits. Incidentally, one man who's already well pulled into the pits, of course, is number 68, Carl Harris. He's having problems with feeling in his right arm and right hand, and Carl's had to pull out of the meeting today. And Danny Buchan also hasn't made the starting line, having had a big practice in warm-up, a big crash in warm-up this morning. Jenny Tinmouth, don't ride off the track, Jen.
No,
she gets well out of the way there.
No, she's no mugs at Jenny. You know, you see somebody getting lapped like that, and don't forget, this is a national championship. There's probably about 400 or 500 riders in the country who couldn't even qualify to be here. So, and Jenny's always keen not to get in anybody's way and have an effect on the race.
So Josh Brooks then, still just ahead of Shaky Byrne, just that ominous shadow. We really wish all the best to Shaky Byrne's wife Petra, who was in for an operation this morning. So Shaky had a lot on his mind when he went out on track this morning. We hope that everything has gone really smoothly down in Kent.
The first meeting in 8 years that Petra hasn't been at Shaky's side.
Wow, that's a long time.
Yeah.
So we saw Kianari there now, a fairly isolated third, because he's got about 5 seconds on the Kirkham-Farmer-Walker battle for fourth place. There you have it, with Kianari 3.5 seconds down the road from these two, but with that healthy advantage over John Kirkham, Keith Farmer and Chris Walker. So very likely that Yuichi Kianari is going to regroup and get himself back on the podium here at Knockhill.
And how good would that be to see?
2/3 race distance complete.
I'm going to enjoy watching Kianari on the rostrum if he indeed ends up there.
Well, we've had a bit of a swap around with the Paget's Honda of Jakob Smertz sneaking its way through the 14th place ahead of the Dootson Motorsport Honda of Robin Harms. And here's Kirkham with that distinctive green helmet.
Yeah,
just getting away a bit from Walker in his battle with Keith Farmer.
Yeah, Kirkham's been pretty much on the pace all weekend up here at Knockhill.
And wait for this lot, James. Over the top. Come on, boys. Warm it up a bit.
Yep.
This is Westmoreland ahead of Ellison now in 8th. Linfoot 9th. What a ride ahead of Jacobson. Yeah, that's a great comeback ride for number 4, Dan Linfoot.
Yeah, but the reason is Westmoreland's at the front of that group, the man with the kind of yellow. And Linfoot is his kind of best mate, and they come from the same part of the country, and he don't like getting beat by him, I'll tell you.
So now, well, and they're two very similar characters. They could almost be brothers. So Westmoreland, number 27, leads that flying bunch of riders just from the Milwaukee Yamaha of James Ellison.
I flew down Linfoot to the Isle of Man, you know, so he could go to the hyperbaric chamber. His girlfriend, lovely girlfriend down Linfoot, Carly, she said, oh, I'd rather like a boyfriend back. I says, mate, looking like you do, you get a better one than him if we end up in the drink. She was concerned that I was going to crash the aeroplane with him in. No chance.
This is how the fastest laps look as we reach just over 2/3 distance. Alex Lowe's actually set the fastest lap before he ditched it at the hairpin. 48.94, just ahead of Josh Brooks. Yuichi Kianari would start on the front row, and Shaky Byrne unusually would get deposed onto the second row with Chris Walker and Keith Farmer. So Stoker getting a fast early lap in. Kirkham 7th, Ellison 8th, PJ Jacobson 9th.
A quick word for, I know we're not at the Isle of Man now, but I can't stress too much how good of a meeting at the TT Josh Brooks had. Unbelievable. Newcomer, 127.7 mile an hour his first year there. Quite incredible, it really was. And to do what he's doing now, get his head into a real scratches circuit and not the fast-flowing sort of nature of the Isle of Man is, it's impressive, it really is.
So Josh Brooks, number 2, who hasn't actually... Brooks, of course, hasn't actually scored a race victory yet. He was 3rd in the opening race. He was 2nd on the first race at Thruxton. He was third and second at Alton Park, so Josh and the Taiko Suzuki still looking for an elusive first race win.
You know, definitely to me, Shane Byrne looks like he's kind of biding his time and looks like he's easily going to be able to have a go at Josh Brooks on the last couple of laps. But this is... Yeah.
Josh Waters rejoining. He's had a problem. He's down in 20th place. He's lost 4 laps in the pits, having adjustments made to the Milwaukee Yamaha.
Yeah, obviously just trying settings, and it's, you know, using it as a practice session. He's doing the right thing doing that if he has a problem. But I'm saying Shane Byrne will definitely have a go at Josh Brooks. But this is one of the easiest circuits to ride defensively. It really is. You can make somebody go the long way around. You can alter your line a bit the last couple of laps and make it difficult for them.
So Josh Brooks has got that task ahead of him, swooping through Hizzies now, through the left-hander, and Shaky Byrne now makes a move up the inside into the Clark's hairpin.
He hasn't got it stopped. He hasn't got it stopped.
And Shaky... Oh! And Josh Brooks isn't a man who's going to hang around. That was a splendid move.
Yeah, and you know, Shaky went out of his sort of comfort zone there. Instead of straightening it up and getting the throttle open, he's squaring the corner off. He actually got the throttle open when the bike was on its side and it slid in. Watch, Shaky's up the inside. He only runs about a metre wide. That allows Josh back up the inside. Look, and watch what Shane Byrne did there. Look, he actually watched the touch. Look at that. They actually did touch, and it was actually not a slide. He was getting the handlebar pulled out of his hand. That's what it was.
So these two, you can see that both these gentlemen want to win this race. One gets the feeling.
I've got a feeling they're not going to be acting like gentlemen this last couple of laps. 4 to go. Hey,
oh, that's John Kirkham.
Kirkham, number 10. Yeah.
John Kirkham's gone down on the build-based BMW, and look at that. This time, Shaky does make the pass stick at the hairpin.
With 4 to go, you'd have to think that Shane Byrne thinks he can put some time into Josh Brooks now and get away.
So it was at Scotsman's that number 10 went down. So what a shame for John Kirkham and the build-based BMW team. The former Superstock 1000 champion falls and leaves the current Superstock 1000 champion Keith Farmer there in 4th place. Good result for the rookie in his first year in British Superbikes.
Josh Brooks tries to stay on the outside instead of turning it tight, and then I honestly think that Shane Byrne's got the pace to pull away a little bit now. I do. This is Kirkham's crash, lost the front. Yeah, pretty typical Knockhill crash. There's no camber there helping you whatsoever. The only good thing about that is you get up, they didn't mark on him, you know, he's not hitting anything, he's all right. But out of 4th place, it was a good run for Kirkham.
During qualifying yesterday, in rather different conditions, though at least they were fairly dry, it looks like it's not easy to keep pinned to your line when you come off that ledge through the first 2 turns.
Hang on. Oh, this is, yeah, we're looking at Alex Lowe's back in the Samsung.
That was Sam, his brother, his twin brother.
But, yeah, you're dead right, because one corner leads into another, the line out of one dictates the line into the other, and it's always a compromise. And if you're getting a bit hot, you try and carry a bit of brake, you're a bit offline, and that is so easy to do what John Kirkham's just done.
Lee Costello there on the Costello. The Knockhill Racing bike was pulling over to get out of the way of these two. He's gone back to all-in suspension this weekend, by the way, having struggled a bit during the first half of the season. He's gone back to what is best from last year's Super Stock Championship. He's running in 17th place at the moment, the lad from Bolton. There is Kianari still on the pace as he crosses the line. He does a 49.5, so he's running at the same pace as Byrne and Brooks. Shane Byrne just took exactly a 1/10 of a second out of that man Josh Brooks on that lap. So the red and white Rapid Solicitors Kawasaki just creeping away from the blue and white Taiko Suzuki.
Yeah, and I actually think that Byrne's put a quicker lap in now, and I think he will stay on the front row for race 2.
This could be the lap that does it for him. He's on the 29th lap of 30. Where did that time go?
It's a short track. I mean, way less than a minute per lap, so...
So the 30-year-old Australian then still in gritty pursuit, but it's the reigning champion who is now in charge of this race as he comes across the line into his final lap. Shaky Byrne leads the way.
Yeah, that picture doesn't do justice to just how steep it is off of turn 1 into turn 2. It really is. So you've no camber, you haven't got a lot of helping you should something go wrong.
So Shaky Byrne leads the way. He's already got 45 British Superbike wins to his credit. He's got to edge even further away from Yuichi Kianari in the race win streak. And it looks like a 46th race win now for the ebullient chap from Kent, who's got vast experience, of course, of MotoGP and World Superbikes, as well as 3 British Superbike Championships to his credit. He crosses the line then to win here at Knockhill for the 2nd year in succession. Josh Brooks goes 2nd for Taiko Suzuki. Yuichi Kianari, welcome back to the rostrum, Kyo. He goes 3rd for Samsung Honda. And the next man over the line should be the 2nd Rapid Solicitors, Kawasaki. Great ride by Keith Farmer. He's pleased with that. Chris Walker comes up next, and up the hill it's James Westmoreland, who just hangs on in front of Ellison, Linfoot, Jakobsen, Hickman and Tommy Bridewell as they burn their way across the line. But general exultation there for the Rapid Solicitors Kawasaki squad. Great result for them. So they do 1st and 4th.
Got to mention Chris Walker in 5th, and I've said it before, I'll say it again, he's having his best season for years.
Great ride then by Shaky Byrne. He just kept the pressure on all the way through and slipped through with about 3 laps to go and made that race his own. And yeah, another good thing about Chris Walker is he said his dad had always told him to marry a pretty girl with small hands, but Rachel's actually got quite big hands, and she warms up and stretches his gloves for him, ready for the ready for the race. She walks around with them on before he goes out for his race.
Not typically something you look for in a wife.
No. I wouldn't have thought so. Shaky Byrne then, look at that applause from the crowds. Very enthusiastic and really knowledgeable crowd you get up here at Knockhill. It's the only time in the year that the Scottish fans get to see the British Superbike guys on home turf close up and enjoy them. And they certainly enjoyed that race. PJ Jacobsen looks a little disappointed there with his 9th place. An elbow on the tank after running a bit higher earlier. Kianari with Keith Palmer 4th. Quattro Plants Kawasaki, the team coming off a brilliant fortnight in the Isle of Man. 5th with Chris Walker. 6th James Westmoreland for build-based BMW, just ahead of Ellison. Linfoot, great return on the Lloyd's British GB Moto team. PJ Jacobsen, Taiko Suzuki and Peter Hickman in 10th. 11th place for Tommy Bridewell's Batham's Honda. And Michael Rutter, also successful in the TT. Moved through into 12th place. Jakob Smertz got 13th place, and congratulations to he and Matteo Baiocco getting some good points here on a track they'd never raced on before. Howie Mainwaring gets a point for MH Kawasaki ahead of Robin Harms, Lee Costello, Jenny Tinmouth, Josh Waters and the unlucky John Kirkham. So the championship standings look like this. Shaky Byrne gets a break, 141 points. He moves ahead, and Alex Lowe's now has Josh Brooks breathing down his neck on 116 points. James Ellison in 4th. John Kirkham remains 5th, but Chris Walker cements his 6th place. Keith Farmer closes up in 7th in the race for the top 6 shootout, ahead of James Westmoreland on 46. Yuichi Kianari is now in the hunt on 43. That's what one good result can do. PJ Jacobsen in 10th place. 11th for Tommy Bridewell ahead of Peter Hickman. Howie Mainwaring an excellent 13th alongside Jakob Smertz and Michael Rutter ahead of Harris, Waters, Harms, Palmer and Jessup. The first race in the MCE Insurance British Superbike Championship here at Knockhill under absolutely blazing summer sunshine. Great start from Josh Brooks, 2nd on the grid. He gets away in front of pole setter Shaky Byrne on the Rapid Solicitors Kawasaki. And those two begin to clear off, really, and leave these guys fighting for positions. PJ Jacobsen runs wide at the hairpin and loses himself time. Alex Lowe's is running in 3rd place. Yuichi Kianari having a good ride in 4th, but then Lowe's high sides at the hairpin. The Samsung Honda spins down the centre of the track, and an unlucky end to Alex Lowe's race, and that leaves Josh Brooks still under some kind of pressure from number 67 Shaky Byrne, with Yuichi Kianari now a distant 3rd. And then Shaky makes his move up the inside, just runs a little deep and wide into the hairpin. Josh cuts it back inside. Shaky tries to defend, and they clip one another as they come out of the hairpin. But one lap later, it's a clean move for Shaky Byrne as he tries to force his way back into the lead. Down goes John Kirkham. And now unlucky for the build-based BMW Derbyshireman, he dives out of 4th place. But for Shaky Byrne, he is now in the lead. He's grabbed the advantage back at the Clark's hairpin from Josh Brooks and pulls a little bit of a lead. So Shaky Byrne, Rapid Solicitors Kawasaki, the reigning champion, heads for his 46th British Superbike race win. Josh Brooks, number 2, finishes a brilliant second for Taiko Suzuki. 3rd place, back on the rostrum at last, is Yuichi Kiyanari, but it's another victory for the delighted Shaky Byrne.
Well, Shaky Byrne might be delighted with that victory, but a man who is very pleased to be back on the podium is Ryuichi Kiyanari, our 3rd place finisher. Kiyo, great to see you back up here. Great to see Kiyo in some sort of form again. It must be a big relief.
Yeah, I'm very happy for this podium, also performance of this weekend. And yeah, I'm very happy.
What has changed? Is it you or is it the bike?
Both. We do it both. But I want to say thank you very much to mechanic and team and sponsor, because helped me so hard, and I'm very happy.
Your times at the end of the race were as good as Shaky and Josh at the front of the race. So your times were strong right to the end. Did Alex's crash force you to drop back?
I don't know lap time, but I'm very hard to keep lap time for 49 mid or high. And yeah, I see, Josh and Shaky, I think same lap time, but big gap. And then I was thinking I have to keep this position for first time podium for this season, and yeah, try to go more fast next race.
I have to ask, and you did talk about the next race, but I have to ask because people at home will want to know. What does this mean for the future? Do you feel now you've turned a corner?
I think not sure, for this weekend, performance is okay, but I try to improve this performance and or keep this performance, and hopefully many days, many podium for rest of the season.
Okay, it's great to see you back up here on the podium. You can smile, you've done it.
Thank you.
Off you go, Kyo. We'll let you go to the podium. Well done. Thank you, Kyo. Ryuichi Kiyanari will make his way to the podium now, and our 2nd place finisher, Josh Brooks, was up here. Well, Josh, you led that for a large portion of that race, and you looked like you were happy with the bike. Everything was in control. You had a bit of a touch with Shaky at the hairpin. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, you're right. I felt quite in control at the front of the race, but I knew Shaky was right there, and I had every understanding that he was just sat there waiting for the race to work itself out. But by being at the front, it meant I was out of any bother. I know I seen Alex's bike on the side of the track, so he must have had some situation. I think just being out in front, being your own, you're out of any mess and hassle. So I thought, just stay out here as long as I can and ride as hard as I can. And I made a few mistakes, but most laps were pretty consistent, and the lap times looked pretty consistent. But I was disappointed with the actual lap times. I was looking at my dash each lap by lap, and it seemed a bit slower than I expected the race to be, which was, I was leading, so I'm the one setting the pace. So I tried to push and push to go faster, but I just didn't have the grip. I couldn't actually make it. Maybe it's the heat of the day has changed the grip level. So and then next thing, Shaky was surprised. I didn't hear his bike or anything come up the inside of me. Normally you can hear, but all of a sudden he was just there, and then I see he was going. He was not going to make the apex, so I shot back on myself to try and get up the inside. And then as we both exited the turn, because I'd turned tighter in the middle, I ran wide. He was turned tight later and coming in tight. We both end up together. Luckily, neither of us come down, and it was all safe and fair racing. But unfortunately, Shaky had more than I did. He come past me again a lap later and took the win, and the rest is history.
Any changes you can make to the bike to try and topple him in race 2?
I don't think so. I mean, the guys are pretty genius. They come up with some things that surprise you sometimes. But as I stand here now, there's not something I would ask to improve, that we could improve suspension-wise with the bike. I felt pretty good on it. It was consistent throughout the race. I just need to figure out how to actually make it go quicker.
Okay, well, we'll leave you to it, but very well done, Josh, on your 2nd place.
Thank you very much.
There you go, Josh Brooks, Taiko Suzuki. He will make his way over to the podium, and our race winner, Shane Byrne. Well, we've had a few weeks away, Shane, but it doesn't look like you've You've been away for a second, really, picked up sort of where you left off, dominated this race. You've got to be happy with that performance.
Do you know what, I've had a lot on my mind over the last few weeks. My wife's been really, really poorly, and she actually got out of an operation first thing this morning, literally just before my race. She called me, absolutely full to the brim of morphine and making no sense whatsoever. But, you know, she said, I can't be there for you, but I love you and I hope you do well. So, you know, this race win I'll dedicate to her and say, get well soon, beautiful. You know, she's in a bit of a bad way, but hopefully that will have gone some way to cheering her up.
Yeah, we'll miss Petra. We'll wish you the very best of health and hope she's back here soon. Tell us about the coming together at the hairpin.
Well, you know, when you get on the brakes for the hairpin, you have to do it over a little bit of a crest, and you know, generally it kind of upsets the bike a little bit. And I decided I was going to make my move because I didn't want to risk doing it too late and not be able to pull it off. So I made my move, and I got a little bit out of shape over the top of the crest. I had to let the brake off just a tiny bit, and I was up the inside of Josh by then, but I was thinking, oh, this is not going to stop, it's not going to stop. But I kind of turned back into the track, and, you know, Josh had the inside line, and he never did nothing wrong, and neither did I, really. But unfortunately, I just sort of got caught on his bike a tiny bit, and it sort of pulled me off my bike a little bit, and I thought, right, come on, let's concentrate. You know, I knew I could pick up the pace a tiny little bit towards the end there, and got back past the lap later, and just tried to be really, really consistent. And all credit to my team, really, because we missed the first session, really. We only had 6 laps in the first session, so they've done a wonderful job to get us into a race-winning bike, you know, by Sunday morning. So fair play to them, all credit to them, and hopefully the same again race 2.
Well, there was a champion's ride. We look forward to race 2. Well done, Shaky.
Tony, thank you.
Shane Byrne there. He'll make his way over to the podium. The other lads are up there, so let's hand over to Jack.
Look at that beautiful view across the Firth of Forth and the famous Forth railway bridge there on the left-hand side. That is spectacular. We haven't enjoyed that view for several years here. We haven't had the weather to enjoy that view up here at Knockhill. Great to see. Shaky Byrne then, who has been in and out of British Superbike since 1999 when he first had that fast bikes, actually no, since 2000 when he had a Harris Honda SP1 kit bike riding alongside Sean Emmett, but damaged his back in a big crash at Thruxton that year. That was 2000. He's had a total of about 7 seasons. This is his 8th season in World Superbike, in British Superbikes rather. He's had spells in MotoGP and World Superbikes, and out of 226 races, this is his 46th race victory. So already looking strong in the defence of his title. And of course that news that came through to him before he went out to the start line about his wife Petra being safely out of her operation down at the hospital in Kent was really great news, and that lifted a big load off his shoulder. The Bruce White of MCE Insurance is here to present the trophies to the boys. 3rd place, Yuichi Kianari. 2nd place to sporting Josh Brooks. And 3rd place, and the biggest trophy of the 3 for Shane Byrne. Great result then for Rapid Solicitors Kawasaki and Shaky Byrne. He's already looking as if he could threaten his records of the past 2 seasons. 15 rostrums in 2011 when he finished 3rd in the series. 18 rostrums in 2012 when he was British Superbike champion for the 3rd time. Congratulations, Shaky Byrne, Josh Brooks and Yuichi Kianari. And of course, they've got it all to do again later this afternoon. The weather still looks brilliant here, so we know we're going to have a consistently good afternoon in Bonnie, Scotland. Shaky Byrne, 46th British Superbike race win, extends his lead in the British Superbike Championship.
Well, there we go. Great to see Yuichi Kianari back up there. Tremendous ride as well by Shane Byrne.